Greetings, fellow enthusiasts. Welcome to the Doop Movie Podcast. My name is Brian.
My name is Keith.
And we are here today to talk about the 2004 Indy Darling Primer by Shane Carruth. Mm-hmm. This movie is one of those movies. It's an older movie, right? It's 2004. It's 16 years ago, 17 years ago. God, R.I.P. us.
Keep going. Yeah.
This movie is almost old enough to buy cigarettes. But
well, I don't know now. Well, I mean, at least in North Carolina, because the law changed to 21 recently.
All right, this movie's almost old enough to vote. Let's put it that way.
True. That is true.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's gonna vote in the next primary.
Primary.
I
saw what you did there.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, we're talking about Primer. This was written, directed, scored, shot, and starring Shane Carruth.
Yeah.
Who has only done 2 films, and both of his films have been very good. He did this one, and then he did Upstream Color in 2013.
Which I've heard of. I have that on like a separate list of films that I'm going to remind myself to watch someday and try to find, and I just never found this one yet. But I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for it, just because I've saw Primer due to Brian's suggestion.
Yes! Brian. Due to Brian's suggestion.
Yeah.
No, this movie is really good, but something we recommend here at the Doop Movie Podcast, if you're going to listen to our podcast about this movie, go watch it first.
Yeah, don't attribute this. Don't substitute watching the film by listening to us, which I appreciate, and thank you for the compliment. But
yeah, we love that you like our analysis so much that you can listen to this podcast and not have to feel like you don't have to watch the movie. We recommend this movie pretty highly, and we're gonna spoil it.
Yes,
but we want to say now, before we get into any details about the plot, go in blind if you plan to watch this movie.
Yeah.
You can find it. I think it's been fully uploaded to YouTube for free.
Yeah, I know that
maybe as of this recording.
Right. On Prime, I found it. It's $4 to rent. Once you rent it, you have 48 hours to watch it. So if you would like to watch it a second time, you can do that.
Yeah.
You might be tempted to.
Oh, yeah, yeah. When I first saw this movie, I had to pretty much immediately watch it again because it's... Well, you'll understand later.
You will.
I can't. And that's the other reason we're doing this intro section is because, seriously, highly recommend this movie, but we can't talk about any of it without major spoilers that will ruin it for you if you want to go in blind.
Yeah, yeah.
This is something that I would call an experience, less a film. And I don't know if you would agree with that sentiment, but I think the idea of it stands.
Yeah, it's... Again, we can get more into details whenever we talk about the film, but I would definitely recommend the experience of watching the film itself. Doing what they did with what they had.
Yeah, a $7,000 budget.
Yeah. That's amazing in and of itself.
Yeah.
Just the imagination that they're having with this and how it really fools you into the, mechanisms of the plot.
I've heard this movie called a modern day El Mariachi.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because El Mariachi cost $7,000.
Yeah, exactly. That's. I think that was on purpose.
Yeah.
I think Carruth did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Set his budget that.
Which might be different nowadays. A different budget would be in terms
of $7,000 in 2004 would probably be $15,000 now. It's still not a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyway, this is your warning. We are about 5 minutes into this podcast.
Spoilers.
Yes, spoilers be ahead. Seriously, we will wait. Go watch the movie. Go pause this podcast right now. Go watch the movie. We'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay, you back? Good. Wasn't that great?
All right. Well, the film opens up on a garage. There are 4 computer engineers working on a project in the garage.
Yeah, Aaron, Abe, Robert, and Philip.
Yeah, which Aaron and Abe are the main 2 of the cast, and you'll follow more of their details with the experiment as the film goes along.
Yeah, But right now, these guys all work in the tech field, and they are they're running a side business, trying to come up with new technology and patent it and sell it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And right now they're selling like hobby computers, like solder it together yourself, hobby computers to the homebrew market.
Which is like a great, concept for such a, minuscule budget that we were mentioning earlier. Like make it yourself sort of things and try to make some good money. Like it's kind of like a haha. I see what you did there, Shane.
Yeah.
You're trying to make good money. Yeah, I see what you did there.
But we have Aaron, played by Shane Carruth, who directed the film. We have Abe, played by David Sullivan, who has made a bunch of TV appearances. He was on a bunch of like NCIS and Law and Order shows. Yeah. But Primer is one of his few feature films, and he's really good in it. Robert and Philip are Casey Gooden and Anand, and I apologize for this pronunciation, Anand Upadhyaya, Anand, and then Upadhyaya. He plays Philip. He's good. Yeah. And I apologize for butchering your name. If you want to get in contact with us, please feel free to hit us up in the comments and tell us how to pronounce your name. We would love that, because we'd love to see you in more stuff too.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the roles in this movie were, Carruth's friends and family.
Yeah.
Right? Because $7,000 budget.
Yeah.
And on that $7,000 budget, they made a full-length feature film with a great concept and box office of $545,000.
Yeah, which that's great enough as it is.
Yeah, and then when you add in home video sales, it bumps it just to almost $842,000. So 100 times, more than 100 times. Yeah,
he almost made $1 million off. Of, a
$7,000 movie.
This backdoor project, basically.
Yeah,
like it's.
It won all kinds of awards at like the Sundance Film Festival and the Nantucket Film Festival.
Absolutely.
The Grand Jury Prize at Sundance. It won another award that we'll get into after the plot synopsis at Sundance.
Yes.
It won Best Writer and Director at Nantucket, and it won the London International Film Festival. It won Best Feature. So, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The one quote that I have up here, they took from their surroundings what was needed and made something more.
Yeah. So the movie...
That'd be a nice little tagline for the film itself.
Yeah. The movie opens with a phone call.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody's phone rings and you hear him pick up and you don't see this person. And it opens up with like, you're going to listen to me. You're not going to speak. And when I'm done talking, you're going to hang up, and then you're never going to be able to hear from me again.
Yeah.
Right? But this needs to be said.
Yeah. And
so he talks about, the narrator talks about these four guys. The quote you said, they took what was around them and they made something more with it. They're working out of Aaron's garage.
Yeah, they're entrepreneurs.
Trying to start a business.
Yeah.
Or trying to grow an already started business.
Yeah. There was something that I've known, and like again with the budget and everything else, I've tried to basically go easy or not grade it as harshly, just because of like some technical issues, like for example, like the ADR, so on and so forth. Like I noticed this early, I was like, oh, was it the recorded version I have on Prime? But that's just the way the film is, just because it was made on such a
$7,000 budget. Yeah.
And like there's some things that aren't going to be cut and paste, but like if you have an open mind for an independent film, then I would appreciate they would appreciate it if you would at least take that into consideration.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it has studio money behind it, because it doesn't.
Yeah,
it looks like a movie made for $7,000.
Yeah,
it looks like a really well done movie made for $7,000. I have seen studio movies that look worse than this.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some sound issues. There's some ADR issues, which is alternative dialogue recording, which is like when they have to redouble line because the take on set wasn't good enough, so they bring them in later to do voiceover.
Yeah.
There's some issues in like there's some film grain issues because this movie was shot on Super 16, which was like the 16mm successor to Super 8, right? But yeah, it's really good. And the scientists don't talk in studio exposition. They talk like four scientists would talk to each other who already knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, like it doesn't waste time like giving you exposition. It was like, oh, my name is this, that, and the third, and that's how we all know each other. So on and so forth. You're already in the group basically.
Yeah, this movie trusts its audience to if not be familiar with scientific nomenclature, to be familiar enough with the way they talk to follow what's happening on a meta level.
Yeah.
Right? And actually, Carruth did this. He wrote the script. Obviously, he did everything on this movie. He actually took physics courses at his local community college in Myrtle Beach.
Wow.
In order to make sure he got the scientific notation and stuff in the dialogue correct.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you would go so far as to take a class for your film, that's...
I think he sat a class. I don't think he actually took the course.
Oh, okay, I was about to say, like, that's a commitment right there.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was present, but like
Right.
he observed the class, and
Yeah.
but he wasn't like a part of the university kind of a thing, from what I can gather.
Okay.
Like he wasn't a student there.
Right, I was about to say. I mean, that'd be one thing in either reality, whether or not, like he was just a student at one point in time taking a physics course and just took his learnings and then twisted it into a movie and or.
I don't know if maybe I'm just misunderstanding, but it sounds like one of us is confused, and let's be honest, it's probably me. In making this movie, writing this movie,
right.
He went to the local community college, and he sat in on some physics courses to make sure he could get the dialogue right.
Yeah.
So he didn't remember his physics classes from when he was in college.
No, I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That's what I was getting. But imagine if that reality would have been the truth, so on and so forth. But they at some point, there gonna be some details that I'm missing in here, just because I was trying to enrapture the movie. So feel free to chime in whenever you need to. The next thing I have is they make their machine.
Okay, well, so they're arguing. The four guys are arguing over where to go next with the company, because right now they're like, we're selling to the hacker community, the homebrew hacker people.
Yeah. And
that's not a big market. We're not going to get rich doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
At least not in 2004.
Yeah, not in 2004. Nowadays you might, but not in 2004. So these are like... The best way to describe what they're doing is these are the guys who, in this movie universe, would have probably created the Raspberry Pi, if you know what that is. The little, computer on a board, single credit card sized.
Okay.
It's a whole computer on a credit card sized board.
Okay.
That has like HDMI and network ports and all kinds. And it has like a 40-pin connector bus that you can wire up to pretty much anything. And it's made to be hacked into, so you can make your own homebrew robots and stuff.
Okay.
Right. That's what it's for. Right. Made by a company called Adafruit. I have like 3 Raspberry Pis. They're awesome. Well, I don't actually have any right now. They're all in projects, but they're cool.
Okay.
That's the kind of company these 4 guys are doing.
Yeah.
2 of them, Aaron and Abe, have an idea for a machine that will use superconductors to lessen objects' weight.
Yeah.
Right? To make them weigh less.
Mm-hmm.
And there's applications for it in like transportation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They have an idea to do it at room temperature. Because in real science, even today, a superconductor needs to be cooled to almost absolute zero to work properly. Right? But the other 2, Robert and Philip, are like, that's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
How
are you gonna achieve that?
We don't have the money or the time to put in the years of work necessary to turn that pipe dream into reality.
Right. If
you try to half-ass a prototype, it's going to use up what resources we have left. We need to focus on this section of the building, the kit computers and stuff, section of this business.
Which you can also view as a reading. I was like, these 2 characters having these sort of doubts. It's like kind of like people having their doubts about this movie that he's making. For how many years was the post-production?
Yeah, well, the film itself was shot over 5 weeks in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Right? But the post-production was 2 years.
Yeah. See, that's hell.
And and Carruth has come out and said that it was a hellish post-production, that he almost abandoned the film several times.
Yeah. During
this post-production.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would have given that a second thought.
Yeah.
If I went through those efforts,
So Aaron and Abe, that's Carruth and Sullivan, who are our 2 main characters.
Yeah.
They decide, independently of Robert and Philip, that they're going to try and make their weight lessening machine themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't, in order to not spend a lot of money, they're having to beg, borrow, and steal all the parts. Like, to get palladium for the superconductors, they took the catalytic converter out of Abe's car.
And then they took something out of the fridge at some point.
Yeah, they took the freon and the copper piping out of one of the refrigerators.
Yeah,
they took they took some specialized equipment from their respective workplaces, borrowed.
Right.
Beg, borrow, and
quote
steal.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. To build this machine that it's basically like 4 superconducting discs that when you put something in it, they float. Mm-hmm. So like when they first get the machine built, then they turn it on before they have like a case around it and everything, right? Aaron kind of puts his hand on it and he goes, "Oh, it feels weird." And I don't know if I'm making it up or if it really feels weird. Mm-hmm. And then this is when Abe takes like glitter, like craft glitter, and he drops it and it just floats above the machine, right? So it works. They have figured out a way to make things weigh less using superconductors, right? So then they start testing it with other objects, and they build a box around it. It's like a big metal, like a Faraday cage, to keep all interference out, right? And they put a Weeble in the box. And a Weeble is like a children's toy that is an egg-shaped thing that's weighted on the bottom. So no matter how many times you knock it over, it'll always stand back up again, right? Which is kind of another tribute to being an indie filmmaker. No matter how many times you get knocked down and told no, you get back up again. Yeah. So they put a Weeble in the box and they turn the box on and the Weeble starts to weigh less. So like, we did it, oh shit, we did it. We can publish, we can do all kinds of cool stuff. And that's when Abe is like, "So you want to do something really weird?" And he unhooks one of the car batteries. He's like, it's pulling 24 volts because it's running it off 2 car batteries right now. Yeah. He's like, "It's running off 24 volts, right?" And Aaron's like, "Yeah." "Okay, so watch." And he unhooks one of the car batteries and kicks it away from the machine, and the machine keeps running. Mm-hmm. How many volts is it pulling now? Well, I'd say 12 because there's only one battery hooked up.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah. So he's like, "Yeah, this is what's really weird." He unhooks the second battery and kicks it away too, and the machine keeps running. Yeah. And this is Aaron's like, "What?" How?
Yeah, like how is it,
Yeah, and Abe's like, it winds down after a few minutes, but it's
using like self-sustaining energy.
Yeah, it's self-stabilizing. Yeah, if you do it right. So they start experimenting with it, and they notice that a film has developed, like a fungus has developed on the Weeble that they're using to test. Yeah, and so they go to get the Weeble, or no, they don't. It's the next day at work. It's like either right before work or on like the first smoke break, right during Aaron's work. Yeah, Abe comes up to him at work, and Aaron is listening to March Madness basketball on his headphones, and Abe's like, "If I told you to take the day off and just trust me, would you do it?" And he's like, I guess. So he's like, "Look, I had this whole spiel about how we've been friends for so long, and I've earned your trust, but I think I'm just gonna say, if you will take the day off work and do what I tell you for the next 6 hours, then at the end of it, I will show you the most important thing any living organism has ever seen." Right? Yeah. And he's dead serious. He's not joking. He's not kidding. And so Aaron's like, "All right, sure." So they go back to the machine, the box, and that's when Abe shows him how he can disconnect the battery and it still works. Right? Then they take the Weeble that they've noticed had this film on it, and they go to like a biologist who analyzes it, and it's a mushroom, a fungus. Yeah. That is it's I forget what it's called, but it's described in the film as the reason you don't leave food sitting out on the counter at night.
Yeah, like it's a protein, and it should have taken like several years to develop. Yeah. At this stage, and it did this in one day.
Yeah, it was they were cleaning off every 5 days. They have to clean the film off the Weeble, right? And when they took it to the scientist was like, "You guys are lying about something." Yeah. Because for this fungus to make this protein, it would take 22 years. Yeah. Right? And so they're like, "What is going on?" So at this point, they're out getting a bite to eat, and they're just like parked on the side of the road some random place. And they're eating burgers, and they're talking about what's happening, why is the fungus doing this, what is going on. And this is when Abe is like, "Okay, I want you to know before you see this that I'm not pranking you. What you're about to see is 100% real, and I need you to believe me that it's 100% real. Because this is not a joke. This is not a prank. You might freak out. You might make some noise, but I need you to try to stay quiet. Please. So Aaron's like, sure, buddy, whatever.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, like, you get weird vibes from all that entire speech.
Yeah.
I was like, what could this possibly be?
So Abe hands Aaron a pair of binoculars and points him to a U-Haul, rent a storage unit place. And they had been talking about speculating that if this thing had been in that box for 5 days and had accumulated 22 years worth of fungus, then it must be in a closed time-like loop.
Yeah.
Right? It must be going around the same however long it's in the box.
Right. From
point A to point B, where it enters the box and exits the box, but then back again to point A.
Yeah.
Over and over again. It's become untethered from the flow of what we would call normal time.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is when Aaron is like, well, there's no reason we couldn't pull it out at point A again.
Right.
Right. And if it was smart, then it could get out at point A.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it have effectively,
like, if it was like a living organism of some sort,
wouldn't it have effectively gone back in time? At that point. And this is when Abe is like, I'm going to show you this, and I need you to not freak out.
Right.
And he puts on the binoculars, and there's another Abe walking into the storage unit with an oxygen mask.
Yeah, you really understand what this movie is at this point. Like, the protein gave me a clue, but like how they're really going to put it into action is where this takes hold,
Yeah. So they have inadvertently invented time travel.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that we need to get into how time travel works in this universe before we can continue the plot.
Because, I mean, there's, like, time travel is different in no matter what sort of media that you come across. Like, if you go, for example, in Back to the Future, if you go to the past and you change something, then you can, erase somebody's existence based on a change, so on and so forth. That may not be how it would work in this world,
Yeah, well, then there's like the many worlds interpretation where you can go back to the past, you can change whatever you want, but you're no longer on your original timeline now.
Exactly, like you're a whole separate
alternate universe. That's how most like popular culture works, like some most silent,
like modern stuff. For sure,
like that's how Endgame works. That's how that's like the most popular time travel movie ever.
Like in Endgame, Rick and Morty, how they deal with time, so on and so forth.
But the so what it boils down to is they have built a box that is about the size and shape of a coffin, right? And you can it only works for as long as the box is turned on. So say you turn on the box at 5 a.m. Monday morning and leave it and just walk away. And then you come back to the box, Tuesday afternoon and get in it. You spend however many, say it's 5 a.m. Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
Or Tuesday now. 5 a.m. Tuesday, not afternoon.
I know.
So you get in the box and you spend 24 hours in the box. And when you come out of it, it'll be 5 a.m. Monday morning again when you turn the box on.
Yeah.
Right? So they have invented a way to basically relive time.
Yeah.
Right? But it only works for as long as the machine has been turned on.
Right. Like that's the thing too. It's not like it's always working all the time. Like you're going to need to make sure that you turn it on, before you enter. Yeah,
you can't just zip back to dinosaur times or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You have it can only access, you can only exit the machine at a time when the machine was on.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So there are no killing Hitler in this movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So what these two scientists decide to do is go hole up in a motel.
Yep.
Right? They turn the box on at 5 a.m. or whatever. Mm-hmm. They go hole up in a motel like 2 towns over.
So that way they don't interact with society.
They unplug the internet. They unplug the phone.
Yeah.
They keep the TV on. Because they can take information in.
Right.
But they can't send any information out.
Yeah.
Right. So they tape up all the windows and they basically remove themselves from the equation.
Yeah.
right, for a day. And then that evening, they go online and they find what was the best performing stock of that day.
Right.
And then they get in the box for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Get back, come out of the box the next morning, like 15 minutes after they left after turning the box on.
Right.
Right. And now they're out and about. So now there's 2 copies of them in reality. There's the 2 of them in the hotel, and there's the 2 of them who are out and about and interacting with the world, and they're making stock trades with their prescient foreknowledge and making tons of money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's their plan. And they do this for 3 solid days and build up a substantial amount of money in this time period. But, they're basically living 36-hour days at this point. Yeah. Because they're reliving parts of their day.
Right, yeah, like 24, plus the 6 before and afterwards, so on and so
right,
forth,
yeah. It starts to have a deleterious effect on their body.
Yeah, like they have random ear bleedings,
Yeah, their hand-eye coordination is off.
Yeah.
A couple of scenes where they play basketball, and the more they do the box, the worse they are at basketball. Mm-hmm. Their handwriting is terrible. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, they start doing this, and they start talking about one night they're at they decide not to tell Robert and Philip about it. Yeah. So Robert and Philip are in one more scene, and then they're kind of out of the film. Yeah. Right. They have one more montage of a meeting. And Aaron tells Abe separately from that meeting that, we're not going to cut Robert and Philip in on this. I will sign over every patent we've made until now. They can have everything else. Hell, they can even have my garage. Right. We're keeping the time box. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so Robert and Philip exit the scene, and Abe and Aaron are laying there talking about, if you could have no consequences, what would you do? You're having this discussion well, I would punch this dude in the face who stole some ideas of mine and made a company out of it. Yeah. What was his name? I forgot. I don't know.
Platt. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They talk about I would just give Platt one good punch in the face.
Yeah. I'd walk up to him. I would sock him once in the face.
And then I would go back in time and make sure it never even happened.
Well, I mean, they don't mention going back in time because Aaron's wife is there.
Right? Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right.
And her wife, his wife.
That's basically what they're saying. What this means, how it would be used if that's what they were going to do.
Anyway, during this scene, you can hear some things shifting around upstairs in the attic. Yeah. You can hear boxes falling over and shit. And she's like, have you called the exterminator yet? And Aaron's like, honey, it's birds. Do you want a bunch of dead baby birds in the attic? And she goes, no, that's too big to be birds. I think it's rats. You need to call the exterminator. Right. Right. And they go on about their business. So at some point during this time, Aaron, off screen, attends a birthday party with his wife and with Abe's girlfriend, who Abe's girlfriend's ex-boyfriend shows up with a shotgun. Right. Aaron disarms him, right, and is a local hero for doing it. Yeah. Right. This is all talked about. It's not shown on screen.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate, but I guess I understand why they didn't want to, film that scene. Because they're going to have to film it,
Yeah, because
multiple times.
Yeah, later that night, after their conversation, there's a bunch of kids skating down the street and hitting cars with rolled up newspapers just to set off car alarms. Yeah. Just being dicks. Yeah. Right? And it wakes up Abe. And he calls Aaron and he's like, if you want to do it, we do it now. We go turn on the machines right now. Right. And then we go... Or no. Because he goes, I've been turning on the machines at 5 p.m. right before we left, just in case we needed it for something. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so the machine is on right now. We can go do what you want to do. Punch that dude in the face. Yep. Then we come back in the box to 5 p.m. today. Mm-hmm. And we just hide until those kids show up, and then we scare them away so they don't set off the car alarms. Yeah. So that I never wake up, so that we never go back in time. Yeah. Right. Basically. So we can punch the dude in the face with no consequences.
And just continue to live our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. On the way to the dude's house, they run into Mr. Granger, who is who is Abe's girlfriend's father. Mm-hmm. Only he was clean shaven that morning at a meeting, but now he's got 3 days worth of beard. Yeah. And he's stumbling around like he's incredibly drunk or as they almost immediately recognize the effects of using the box. Right? You lose hand-eye coordination. You have ear bleeding, things like that. Mm-hmm. So they find him, and they're like, how the hell did he use the box?
Yeah.
What the hell? Did you tell him about the box? No. Would you? No, unless it was an emergency. And this is when it comes to light that Abe, before he ever told Aaron about the boxes, set up a failsafe. At the morning before he did anything, he built a box and put it in a separate storage unit, turned it on and left it there, just in case they fucked up something really bad. Now that he can go back and stop them from ever time traveling. Right. So he mentions the failsafe box, and now Mr. Granger is comatose in their living room, or in Aaron's living room, and Abe is like trying to figure out how he's going to go back in time, how he's going to fix all this. You know, something obviously happened really bad. Right. And so he tells Aaron, he's like, all right, I'm calling it. I'm going to go do the failsafe. And
I'm going to go back in time so that way none of this has happened pretty much, and everything will get set back to normal, basically, is the theory that we're going off here.
Right. So he does. He gets in the box, and he goes back to the morning before it all happened, before they ever traveled. And he goes back up, and he I don't know if he kills him.
He sedates him.
Or if he sedates him. I think he sedates him.
Yeah.
He does.
I think so too.
He basically comes up to his earlier self.
Yeah.
And knocks him out with something.
Yeah.
Right? To keep him unconscious. And takes his place at work that day.
Yep.
Takes his place going up to Aaron while he's sitting there listening to the March Madness.
Right.
And is like, is going to tell him about the box.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to try to change it so they never time travel. And then this is when you find out, because during this time, Abe passes out.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of this conversation that didn't happen the way it was supposed to.
Right.
Abe passes out, and then you can hear coming out of the earbud where Aaron jumped up to help his friend.
Yeah.
The conversation that Aaron had recorded on one of his trips back through time.
Yeah, like Aaron's been messing around with the boxes too.
Yeah, he found this failsafe box. This all comes to light now after Abe wakes up. He found the failsafe box, Aaron did, and he's been using it to prevent something horrible from happening at this party. And he's used it a couple of times now, to the point where he keeps showing up and drugging his former self. And he even says it's really
put something in the milk.
It's real easy to drug someone when you know exactly what they're going to have for breakfast the next day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's drugging his former self and locking him in the attic, which is what you heard knocking around. And now he's reliving the time over and over again to try and get it right at this party, just to do the right thing to save everybody.
Yeah.
And that's why he recorded all the conversations he had the second time around, right? So he could just listen to the conversation and basically have what they call in the movie a 3-second lead on the world.
Yeah.
Right? So Abe was like, why would you do this? What the hell? And Aaron doesn't explain why, but the gist is that something happens at the original timeline party, and like Rachel died or something really bad. Because the guy walks in, the ex-boyfriend walks in with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and obviously Aaron's not going to be the hero the first time around. Like that's why he would have gone back initially to try to be the hero, because he's not going to be the type of guy who would react in that situation like that.
Exactly. And the fact that they saw Granger, Mr. Granger, her father, having obviously used the box at some point, leads them to and this is sort of my headcanon, because this movie leaves a lot to interpretation.
Yeah.
They
don't explain everything.
Yeah, it's all centered around that party.
Yeah.
Right. I think something really bad happened after the party.
Right.
And like Rachel was killed by the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And Mr. Granger used the box to try and go back in time to fix it, and got delirious from it and wound up comatose.
Yeah.
So Aaron talks Abe into helping him at the party. We can get it right. We can do it perfectly. We can make sure he gets arrested and he never bothers them again. And Abe is like, didn't you already disarm him? Didn't you already... nobody got hurt. What's wrong?
Right.
And Aaron's like, yeah, but he'll be out in a day. He can come back.
Yeah.
He's obviously shown that he's willing to do horrible stuff. So Abe goes with him to the party. And it says, this is when the voiceover kicks back in again. And it says, who knows how many times they did it over and over again to get it right. Because now they both have the unobtrusive headphones where they're reliving past conversations.
Yeah.
And who knows? Did they get it right on the first try? Did it take 100 tries? Did it take a dozen tries? It can't be known how many times they went back and did it until they got it perfectly right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's a timeline where they did.
Yeah.
They got it perfectly right, and no one was hurt, and the bad guy was put away, and everyone went on about their lives happily. Yeah. But then you find out another wrinkle is that this last time that Aaron came back to try again, he was too weak to overpower his former self.
Yeah. So
then now there's two of them existing
in the same timeline.
And it's confusing, but it's also really compelling, right?
Yeah. Whenever you get to understand really how it all works out, like you're really invested into it,
Yeah. So long story short is they basically abandoned trying to fix things.
Yeah.
Right? Abe and Aaron, who now there is future Aaron who has come back in time, and future Abe who has come back in time. And this is at the morning before Abe does his first time travel experiment, right? They've come back again, and they're like, look, Abe says, I'm going to stop them from doing the experiment. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to alter the box so it doesn't work.
Right.
And if they figure out how it altered, I'll fix it in a different way so it never works. And eventually they'll just lose interest, and all of this will have been prevented.
Yeah.
And Aaron accuses in what is a breakdown of their friendship.
Yeah.
Aaron accuses Abe of being basically jealous of his family. He's like, well, why don't you go get, my Kara and whatever his daughter's name is.
Yeah, I forget.
Put them in a box and take them back. Then we can each have a set.
Right.
Right? Because Aaron wants to blow town.
Yeah.
Right? He wants to take some of his sports knowledge and go gamble, win some money, and go to like Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Right? And so that they're at loggerheads over this.
Yeah.
Right? Abe says, you go. After that insult, you're jealous of my family.
Right.
After that insult, he's like, you go. You don't fucking show your face around here anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And so he does. Aaron leaves. And this is when you find out that the voiceover has been this Aaron who has come back in time and called himself on the phone.
Right.
And so it cuts to, like, present Aaron, not future Aaron. Mm-hmm. And you hear the voiceover, and it's like, maybe you had presence of mind to record this conversation. Maybe you didn't. I have no way of knowing. You'll never find me. Yeah. But now any debt that I owe you for messing things up is paid because now you know everything.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So you're never going to hear from me again. Click.
Yeah.
Right? And Abe and future Abe is like watching them from a distance. Mm-hmm. To watching over them, making sure they don't time travel.
Right.
Present Abe and Aaron don't know that time travel is possible, and future Aaron has taken off somewhere and is in the void. And the very last scene is future Aaron in France instructing the workers on how to build a airplane hangar-sized version of the time travel box.
Yeah.
Because he very much did not learn his lesson.
Yeah. See, that would be an interesting sequel, just to see him, like, owning his technology.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing where that goes. But obviously that's going to have to require a budget.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, Rian Johnson... Or no, not Rian Johnson. Who was the guy who did Looper?
I want to say it was Rian Johnson.
Was it Rian Johnson?
I feel like it.
I was thinking it might have been the guy who did No Sudden Move. But maybe not.
No.
Maybe not.
No. Told you.
Yep, it was Rian Johnson.
Or you told me. You were right the first time.
I shouldn't have second guessed myself.
Yeah, follow your instinct.
Anyway, he has said in an interview that the time travel in Looper was the mechanics of it were inspired by Primer. Yeah, which was really cool. Because he and Shane Carruth are friends in real life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
The also just so you know, the whole scene Brian was describing about like the rats up in the attic, that was one of the errands that was like hidden away.
Yeah, that was one of the errands trying to escape the attic.
Yeah. Which that was a nice little detail,
Oh yeah, I love it. I love there's so much attention. Shane Carruth puts a lot of little details in his movie in the same way that Edgar Wright does.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, you can, there's a few scenes that are basically a microcosm for the whole movie itself.
Yeah.
You know, and I love those little things.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, this movie, it was really complicated.
It is. It was. It's definitely not. It's a very challenging movie. It's
in a good way.
Yes.
It's challenging in a good way.
Right. If you're not in the mood for a challenging movie, I can see you not being in the mood for this movie.
Yeah.
But if you're in the mood to be challenged by a film, which it's kind of like a weird thing to you know, quantify.
Well, the best way I can describe it, Manos: The Hands of Fate, right? Which has a thing where the guys from Riff Tracks have done a big thing with it. Mystery Science Theater dudes.
Yeah.
But it's kind of it's a very complicated movie, but it's very incoherent. It's not put together well, right? Whereas Primer is very complicated, but it's coherent. Yeah. Watch it a few times.
Yeah, no, like it makes sense. Like everything makes sense.
And you'll catch on to it.
It's like there's no plot holes. It doesn't. What's the word I'm trying to think of now? It doesn't
paint itself into a corner?
Well, yes, but there's a word I'm trying to think of right now, and I can't think of it right now.
What does it mean?
It's contradicting itself.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't contradict itself in any of its points. It's not like it sets up a rule and then like it breaks the rule like in a different scene, so on and so forth. Like everything works. You know? And the screenplay is great. Like it's definitely if this had been a blockbuster movie, it would be a class, like more so in terms of more recognition for a classic that it is, and it is a classic in and of itself.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know.
It's
gotten the recognition for sure.
This definitely goes on my desert island list.
You know,
like if I had to pick like 20 movies to take with me on a desert island, Primer would be one of them.
Yeah. Which is why, I mean, you know, the whole notion that I was trying to mention is like try to watch it twice, sort of thing. Yeah. Like you're definitely gonna get that on your desert island.
Oh yeah.
Sort of scenario.
Yeah.
It's like you're definitely gonna watch that more than once.
Yeah, I definitely would recommend watch the movie once and then watch it a second time.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised how many forehead slap moments are in the second viewing. Like, I should have seen that.
Yeah.
Like, of course that's not rats.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, like, the first time you're watching it, when Abe is first talking about, you know, trying to build Aaron up to, you know, we've invented time travel.
Right, yeah.
You're like, he's being real cagey. Why is he being so cagey?
Yeah.
But then when you go back and rewatch the movie, you're like, oh, I get it. You don't want Aaron to freak out.
Right.
Right? Because if he freaks out, that ruins symmetry.
Yeah.
Which is what they, you know, that changes the past.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there was a thing with symmetry in this movie. Like, I think, what was it? Aaron forgot to leave his phone.
Yeah, no, he left his phone turned on.
Yeah.
When they were in the hotel room and wound up taking a call from his wife.
Yeah.
And then Abe's like, fine, it's fine. It won't break symmetry. You just don't take your phone back with you.
Right.
Right, when we get in the box tonight.
And then he accidentally does.
And then he leaves it in his pocket.
Yeah.
And so their second time through the day, the phone rings, and he answers it.
Yeah.
And because now they've broken symmetry because
the same phone's being answered in two separate places in the same timeline. You know.
Yeah. So now they've changed something, and that's kind of when they learn that you can change the past, and it's not going to like immediately blow up all of reality.
Right.
You know.
Which is great that that's not what happened. You know.
Right. Yeah. But the fact that, and that's something that Carruth has said. He's like, I wanted to kind of get across the feeling of most of the major scientific advances in human history have been accidents.
Yeah.
They have been side effects of trying to do other things. Like the guy who invented crazy glue was trying to invent a way to clean lenses for a telescope company, and he accidentally stuck two lenses together with this formula he'd made and couldn't ever get them apart, and that became crazy glue.
Huh. Interesting.
Right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? And so he kind of wanted to get into, they were trying to make something way less for transportation and accidentally invented time travel.
Right, which is much more usable. You know?
Yeah. Like, how do you accidentally invent time travel?
I know.
Like, and if I had asked you that question before you had seen this movie, if I had said, there's a movie where people accidentally invent time travel.
Yeah, I would just be like, how?
Yeah, that's not even feasible.
That's how, like, How do you accidentally go back in time? But
yeah,
I mean,
but it makes perfect sense.
It happens, like the looping theory, basically. Mm-hmm. Something can age, but then like go back in time, so on and so forth. Like,
yeah,
and then if that being, if that organism, is sentient enough to move and get out, so on and so forth, they would be able to. Yeah, not age, but then still go back in time and do whatever they. I
mean, they age the 6 hours,
right? Yeah, 6 hours, right? The time travel. That's what I mean. But like, not aging the same way that the protein did because it couldn't move out of the box, basically.
But basically, you have to be in the box for the same amount of time that you want to go back.
Right.
Right. So it's not like you can get in the box and immediately get out and it's 6 hours earlier.
Yeah.
You have to spend 6 hours in the box traveling backwards.
Yeah.
Your speed through time doesn't change.
Yeah.
But it loops around on itself.
Yeah.
So you're kind of untethered from the way time moves, and so you can get out at the A or B either when you got in or when you turn the box on.
Right.
There's one or the other. There's no in between.
Yeah.
And they even talk about what would happen if you open the box with somebody inside it. They don't know. Like they're too chicken to try and find out.
Yeah, I would be curious about that. Like, what would?
Yeah, there are definitely unanswered questions. I would love a sequel for this movie to be made.
Yeah, and or like I don't know, maybe some sort of miniseries. Because I mean, this is definitely prime for a miniseries. Like going into all the different concepts of it.
This could be. I could definitely see them doing like a reboot of Quantum Leap, but using this movie as like a pilot, as like the premise. That being said, for all of you viewers who are Keith's age or younger, Quantum Leap was a TV series back in the 80s starring Scott Bakula, where it was
I've heard that name before.
Yeah, it was set in the far distant future of 1997, and he went back in time to like save people, right? To change things for the better. And he could only go back in time to moments where he existed as a person, right?
Oh.
So he can only travel from like the late 40s up through the 90s.
Yeah.
So, he could change. He changed like the Tulsa Race Massacre. He changed, some things like that. But like no, couldn't go back and kill Hitler.
Yeah.
Right. And it ran for several seasons, and it was a really cool TV show, and it is what put Scott Bakula's name on the map.
Yeah.
Scott Bakula, who you might know from Star Trek Enterprise. He was the captain, Captain Archer.
Yeah.
And also, he's NCIS New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's the main detective there. So, but before we get into like a full-on discussion of time travel in different media, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because talk about getting in the weeds. Holy crap!
You're gonna have to get into the weeds real soon. Real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick.
In the lead-up conversation to recording this podcast, I think we touched on like 9 different topics in 15 minutes.
I'm sure we did. Yeah. Try to get all the, everything in the weeds out before we focus on this movie.
Exactly.
Because if we get into the weeds so much in this film while we're trying to summarize the synopsis of it, then we're going to get lost. And we're going to get you guys lost, and that would not be great. Yeah,
and we know from feedback that you guys prefer our podcast to be like right at an hour-ish.
Yeah.
Any more than like an hour and a half, and they start to lose interest.
Yeah,
which is perfectly understandable.
Yeah,
I think the generally accepted length of a podcast is an hour.
Yeah, and I mean, like, especially considering that this film is short. It's
an hour and 17 minutes.
Yeah, this film is like less than 80 minutes. Like that's saying something. They had so little time to produce such an amazing idea.
Yeah, and, $7,000 budget, and it was extremely tight. And Carruth is very much a perfectionist.
Yeah.
They were so limited on film stock that he only allowed himself 2 takes per shot, right, to make sure he got everything right, which does lead to a few technical issues. Like there's a scene where Abe and Aaron are talking at a gas station, and you could barely understand the dialogue because there's cars driving by and stuff like that.
Like if you're that type of audience member who needs to have like, everything be perfect the first time through.
Yeah, if you need perfect fidelity in your movie, this is not the movie for you.
No, and like I'm not talking down to you because I understand where you're coming from. Be reasonable with these guys. They have so little to work with, and they've achieved so much.
Yeah.
Like, my overall rating is going to be a 7.
Okay.
Based on like some of that does weigh on me as a general audience member, and like,
right, yeah,
whether or not I would like to view this movie over and over again, like a replay value. It used to hold a higher weight on my criticism plane than it does now, because I don't rewatch a lot of movies just in general, because I want to see what else is out there. But,
right.
Would I try to recommend this to somebody to watch for the first time? Yes, I would say that for twice. Depending on their,
I'm kind of the exact opposite. I rewatch stuff I've watched before a lot.
Yeah.
And that might be like anxiety issues and stuff, just because I like the comfort of it.
Yeah.
There are TV series that I've watched all the way through multiple times. Most prevalent among them being like Deep Space Nine. Right. Is my favorite Star Trek series, and I've watched it through like 4 or 5 separate times.
Yeah.
Primer I have seen multiple times now, twice just for this podcast.
Yeah.
And I would definitely also recommend it. I'm going to overall also give this film a 7. For a long time, up until about an hour ago, I was honestly thinking I was going to give this film an 8, maybe even 8.5. But then I realized I'm thinking about it as someone who has watched it repeatedly and spent a lot of mental effort to understand the convoluted plot.
Right.
Which
it is.
It is convoluted. It is understandable. It's not incoherent, but it is convoluted and complicated.
Yeah.
And I have put in a lot of mental energy into understanding it.
Right.
And if someone else doesn't want to put in that much effort for a movie, I totally get that.
Yeah.
You are valid. I 100% respect that.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't. I kind of knocked a point off for that.
Yep.
And I knocked a half a point off for the technical issues, for the, a couple of ADR issues. A couple of times there was some film grain effects over the footage that didn't look, especially there's a scene shot at night.
I actually really like that. I really like the film grain scene at the nighttime perspective.
It got real distracting for me in that one scene. There was a scene in the fountain.
It would be one thing, yeah. Like I agree. I could see it as a positive if it was used stylistically.
Yeah.
Like if you ever had to go back to the past, like whenever Aaron had all those little flashbacks, so on and so forth, whenever he was spiking the milk.
Yeah.
Like if it was used during those scenes, like I would definitely give this film a little bit more credit, but I understand what you have to work with,
Yeah. And, and that being said, we are definitely armchair quarterbacking this thing. Like we're looking at it from, almost 20 years of hindsight, what we would have done differently.
Yeah.
And 20 years of movie knowledge.
Right.
Yeah. Like no sudden move.
Yeah.
I noticed the Dutch camera angles, and the fisheye lens was only used when someone was being double crossed. Right. So that kind of put it in my head to only use certain camera techniques in when the plot needs you to be a certain way. And because I thought the same thing you did. Use the film grain more pronounced when you're looking at a double rather than, something like that.
Yeah. But
then I thought, if I hadn't seen No Sudden Move and had that revelation about that movie, would I have thought this? Right. So you have to understand, we're coming at this from, 17 years later.
Yeah.
And looking at this with fresh eyes, and we're still giving this movie a 7.
Yeah.
Like, this is well above average.
Yeah.
Especially considering it had a budget of,
$7,000, like we haven't said for the 7,000th time.
Yeah, well, like you could
just
buy
amazing in and of itself, like
Yeah, you couldn't even buy a new car with the budget of this movie.
Yeah.
And it made $841,000.
Well, not new per se. I mean, you have to be used.
Well, I did say new.
Right, yeah. Like brand spanking new, like 2021,
Yeah.
I could even say it's $7,000 for a car, because...
And you could buy a decent used car for $7,000.
Yeah, definitely.
A decent used car.
Yeah, decent used car for, what, 100 and some thousand miles? Probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure, depending on the year and stuff.
Yeah, like I drive a Mazda CX-5, and I think it cost me $26.
Yeah.
Total.
Yeah.
I'm still paying it off, but,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's, again, give this film a 7. Definitely recommend you go watch it. Really hope you went and watched it before listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I do not believe that you will enjoy the movie as much if you don't watch it before you listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't think of any bad performances. I can't think of any... The dialogue was phenomenal. the cinematography was kind of uninspired. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of moving camera work. There wasn't a whole lot of
no experimentation with
the lighting was mostly done with like fluorescence.
Yeah.
To give the film a very washed out look, and that was a choice. Mm-hmm. That wasn't by accident. That wasn't by budget. That was chose to do it that way.
Right.
And it works. You know, these are gray little people living gray little lives.
Yeah.
Who accidentally invent the most important thing ever.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
But the award at Sundance that it won, that I said I'd get back to, was the Alfred P. Sloan Prize for Science and Technology in a film.
Okay.
I didn't want to give away the
science part.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Carruth won Best Writer-Director. It won Best Feature at the London International Festival of Science Fiction.
Yeah.
Definitely an indie darling.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm very much looking forward. There are a couple of projects in the works for Mr. Carruth, and I don't know if he's going to actually finish them or if he's going to retire. There's some question about what he's going to do. But I like both of his movies that he put out, and I would very much watch more if he made them.
Sounds good. So, yeah, I'll definitely look up Upstream Color after
this. Yeah,
I
recommend it.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. He's real good at character studies.
Okay.
Anyway, that has been the episode on Primer. That's been your primer on Primer.
That's it. Yeah.
This has been the Doop Movie Podcast. Do you have any final thoughts?
Not really.
All right.
Yeah.
Good to know. I've said what I needed to say.
Yeah, that's it. It's all said and done. It's all on the plate. Eat up.
There you go. The whole plate.
That's it.
Yeah, I just referenced Lindsay Ellis. What of it?
Alrighty. Take it easy, guys.
Yeah. Bye, guys.